Why are we calling these scorecards and action plans? What we're trying to do is demonstrate and model, because good leaders model. And how can we be considered accountable, trustworthy, and where we communicate effectively what our plans are, what our expectations and accomplishments for a year, and our goals, and how we are going to align those based on data, based on the work of our unit and our cross-divisional work. And so the development of the scorecards is part of this methodology, so we can show you how to hold us accountable. And the other thing it does is then when we meet, we get to talk and we go, okay, no, see, look, this is what I agreed I would get done. Yes, there's flexibility, but how is this new idea or this new project going to fit into this to further what we're trying to accomplish? So it keeps us focused and on track. Because how many times in the last 10 years has there been suddenly, what is the movie where, the dog goes, gopher, and looks off? I mean, we have that problem in higher ed, is we see the next thing and we jump on it. We're going to stay focused and aligned throughout. So that's what these scorecards are, and we have 30 minutes and 5 people, so we're going to go fast. Here we go. So how does the scorecard template work? Basically, we set the goals and we align it to our strategic imperatives. So you're going to see that in the left column. Then you're going to see the measurement tool, the measurement itself, and the tool in which to make that measurement. And then you're going to see weighting in terms of how important that particular goal is on the scorecard, totaling 100%. We've tried to have 6 to 8 for each of us. Some of us had 6, some 7, some 8, but that's how we made it work. The weights, in terms of what you'll see in that one column, 20% or above means this is an urgent goal, an outcome of which we need to achieve to be successful. 15% means it's very important. 10 means it needs to have our direct attention as a vice president or president, so it's on our scorecard. Less than 10 really means you're going to see other things, initiatives that we're working on that inform these higher scorecard measurements. We set scales, meaningful in terms of 5 down to 1, 5 being our audacious goal, our super stretch goal, 4 is our stretch goal, meet stretch goal, 3, meet goal, showing some improvement, 2 stayed the same or slightly improved, 1 was not doing well. We're below any type of goal setting that we want, not performing well. The result, our weight, each measure added equal a total score. So that's how the setup of the scorecards are. Now, this is what it'll look like when we post them here on Monday. They're going to be on the website for everyone to see. You all, every faculty, staff member, student, and person outside in our community is going to see what we are trying to accomplish, each of us as leaders at this institution. So utterly transparent. There's no secrecy. This is what it looks like. Since you can't read it, we're going to do each one, okay? And that's, we're going to run through them with each of you. So, student success, this first imperative, this is weighted 25% on my scorecard. Number 1, why? Because performance funding. Because everything that we do as an institution has to lead retention, progression, and graduation of our students. So, how am I going to track that? We had 2,338 degrees conferred this year, record. We had a bit of an influx into that senior class, and we have a 70.8% retention rate, freshman to sophomore, and a 42% 6-year graduation rate. Those are the key areas that are going to look for performance funding, along with progression that you'll see in some of the other scorecards. So when I look at mine, I have then our goal. Now you see, for 3, meet goal for me is 2,300. We had a bit of an anomaly of an increase of graduates, so hitting 2,300 is really going to be quite a goal this year. So that's why that one isn't a greater number. 2,350 is my stretch goal. My super stretch goal is 2,400. We want to get to 73% retention rate this fall, and we think we're going to hit that, which would be quite an increase, 2.2%. So that'd be huge for us, but we think we're going to hit that, and we're going to try to increase that 2% each year. And we think we're going to hold right about 42% for 6-year graduation rate, because we've tracked every year along that way, that 3rd, 4th, 5th year, and we know sort of where we're headed. So 42% is going to be a pretty darn good goal to hit again. 43 would be wonderful, 44 would be tremendous. So that's what we're going to track for student success. Then, as we look at operational success, the reason 20% here, very high for me again, and that's because total enrollment and student retention, progression, graduation help us in terms of our total amount of student growth from all sites, our strategic enrollment plan, and even more importantly, and I hate to say it this way, growth, purposeful growth, also means revenue. Revenue of which we can strategically apply to raises, to programmatic development, to facilities, all the different things that we need to do to make sure that our operations continue. So growth is important, but it needs to be purposeful. So you see our targets as we head forward, both counting headcount and FTE, because FTE is very important because it shows how many credit hours our students are taking, which shows how they're going to then progress and graduate in 4 to 6 years. If they aren't a full FTE, it's not going to matter much to us. We want those credit hours so they're moving forward. I gotta go faster, don't I? All right, there we go. And then, of course, our employment engagement survey. We want to hit that 75% engaged, and that's the measurement of which we want to hit, 4.2 across our whole scoring matrix. And that may adapt a little as we do our own survey, but we'll have good cross-correlation in those. Then fundraising. Why is fundraising so important to a president? It's going to be about 35% of my time these next 4 or 5 years, because my ability to raise money with Bill, with the advancement team, is going to make a difference for what we're trying to do and hit the goals of which we want to achieve. And nobody better than a president can raise money, because that's usually who the donors, frankly, want to talk to and hear the story. Why is it going to work this time? Is because we have a great case for support, a plan, a way in which those dollars are really going to move the needle, and we can show that through data and all sorts of ways of which donors now in this day and age like to see. So our goal is a big one, to maintain that 6 million all the way up to 5.7 million gifts and pledges. That second number, we call it VSC, is actual dollars in the door. So gifts and pledges can be a pledge over 5 years that we count in that 6.7 we hit this last year, but then the dollars in the door are how much we actually receive that year towards those pledges. So that's what those two numbers mean. Then of course, our faculty staff median salary. Right now, we're at 85% for faculty with the new Coupa averages, and 84% in pay grades 1 through 10. That's not so great. We need to get pay grades 11 through 19. That's going to take another $261,000 recurring dollars just to get all the staff to 84%. So our goal this next year is to get everybody between 85 to 88% pending our available dollars. How do we achieve available dollars? Growth, retention, progression of our students. Partnership success. Here's where I bring in a whole lot of elements and track what's our impact on the community. And the best way to do that for me, as I look at all the different things within that, are going to be our economic impact. Now, last year was $442 million. I'm thrilled to say we just got the report about 3 weeks ago, $456 million. So I'm done. I achieved my goal. I'm done for the year. I hit it. No, we'll be pushing that. Our goal is to get that each year, another 10 to 15 million. How do we do that? $2.25 million in recurring raises, impact to the economy. More students, more faculty, more staff, more partnerships. All those indicators push that needle. So our success is the entire region's success. So these are all the things that I talked about, what's coming this year. You see heightened in terms of SAC COC, our action steps to address the institutional effectiveness assessment. We're going to continue to work on the survey and improve that. Student retention progression, I track it all the way through. We're going to finalize our strategic enrollment plan, expanded government external relations. This is a big deal in what we haven't been. We haven't been active in Atlanta, frankly. The state doesn't know us from a government perspective. Well, we've hired somebody and we're actively engaging, and I'm meeting all legislators and telling them our story, and we're going to be relevant to all of the state of Georgia and the southeastern region. We're going to continue our campus sustainability initiatives. Here I put them out specifically. Our website, our faculty staff professional development. This is all the things you've already seen, just a little bit more detail as I go into the things I'm going to work on. Now our action plan. We wanted to show you these also quickly. Each of us has rolled out our survey and has developed an action plan within our divisions, our units. And for me, that is President's Office, Support Staff, ITS, Institutional Effectiveness and Assessment, Police, Ombuds, General Counsel, Internal Audit. I have 11 direct reports, and so it is a big division. We had 47% engaged as a baseline result in the survey. UWG averaged 53%, so clearly we had some distance to make up just in terms of engagement and satisfaction with our own division, let alone with the institution. So we focused as we went through our process, and we found that there were 3 particular areas that we wanted to focus on, and we isolated that to specific questions. So career progress and development, The question 62, I'm provided with adequate funding for professional development. Our actions are, we're going to develop peer mentoring. Each supervisor develop peer mentoring relationships with new first-year employees, webinars, at least 4 each year for our staff, conferences, and we're doing a rotation so that everyone knows when they'll have a chance to do a conference. Action 2, quality and pace. I have the equipment, supplies, and training needed to produce quality work. Our action plans, training each supervisor so that we can make sure that we have cross-training within that and develop cross-training schedule for units. Our equipment and software upgrades. We need to develop a schedule for that. So that's a way in which we're going to address that area. And then 3, we felt we weren't providing adequate opportunities for advancement. So every single supervisor is developing a 1 to 3 year career development progression plan for each of the people that report to them, and they'll track that and help them to achieve the goals of which that employee wants to set. So that's our action plan in our division. That's my scorecard. That's the stuff I'm going to be focusing on as your president. So now I'm going to hand it over to Michael Crafton for academic affairs. There's Michael Crafton. All right. My goodness. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can follow that. Let's see. One of the things I think I want to do is be fairly abstract about mine. There are lots and lots of goals. In fact, I started off with far, far too many goals, and so Kyle made me reduce them to, I think, about 8 or 9. But actually, I just took the 40 or 50 that I started with and grouped them into 8 or 9, groups. So, and then I said, I really would like to scrap all that and just focus on the tobacco policy and the holiday schedule. Just have those 2 things, very clear, get that done, and it will be okay. Let's see, how do I do this thing? All right, we have the 4 imperatives, and so all of us have parts to play, varying parts to play in them. And so for academic affairs, the student success parallels what Kyle has put there, and of course makes us with student affairs a good partner. Basically, it's an enrollment management business, and enrollment management, of course, is everybody's business, but it often gets focused upon student affairs. But really, it is a student affairs, academic affairs cooperation, because making things happen in the classroom with advising, as well as recruiting and retention, that's our business. So we have that same goal. The operational side, same thing. Working on Engage West and improving morale, that's what we do. If I tell enough jokes, morale will go up, bound to happen, so we got that covered. When we move to academic success, there are multiple goals here because that is the bulk of academic affairs, obviously. And the way that I've divided it up, roughly, is that we'll look for baseline measurements about instructional effectiveness, baseline measurements of production, creative activities as well as scholarly production, grants, and partnerships. So if we look at these, you can see that mostly everything here is work toward establishing what is a baseline this year, and then look toward improving or not improving that as we go forward. That's the academic affairs method. Very crude method, but it's the best I can do as an English major, Let's see, so diversity efforts, this is a very important one for us, and we're going to have to take some decided efforts toward diversity in faculty and staff hiring. We're committed to that. Let's see, did I skip one? No, that's that. Scholarly and creative activities is what I've said. Of course, working on increasing those. The CCG, if you haven't heard that enough, of course, is Complete College Georgia. That's a huge enterprise that all of us in the University System of Georgia are involved in. We have to make movements. That sort of loops us back in with student affairs and student performance, which then loops into performance-based funding. And then quality of teaching, of course, all of us want to do a better job. We'll work on that. Cher Hendricks and the Center for Teaching and Learning is going to, just move us into the stratosphere in terms of instructional effectiveness. Quality of research, what we mentioned already. Post-graduation success, this is kind of a new thing for a lot of schools. Most of us, particularly in the liberal arts, have thought our job is to do, the best damn job possible in the classroom, and what happens after that, we're not concerned with, We can't think like that. We have to think about the post-graduation success, whether it's professional school, graduate school, or employment in the community or elsewhere. That's a part of what we do. It has to be on our radar all the time. That's kind of new for a lot of us. Let's see, partnerships, of course, is part of student success, but partnerships to support our strategic initiative activities, numbers, how many we have, and then a list of things here. There are many ways they are. if I stop on one of those, I'll run out of time. So let me mention that our Engage West action plan, let's see, go, baby. There we go. I'm going to talk about this later. It's on the agenda, so I'm going to skip past these three things and hand it over to another vice president. But basically, the work that we talked about in terms of the Engage West rollout was to emphasize communication, collaboration, development, career and faculty development, and process improvement. And that's just going to be the theme that I'm going to harp on all year, is communication, development, process improvement. So next on the agenda then, let's see if I can make this move, is Jim Sutherland. There we go. Good?
Great. So we're the support group, and when we were looking at our strategic plan and we saw we really drilled down on those 4 imperatives, and we said, yeah, but what's really most important, especially to the people in this room? We said it's a reserved parking space next to the front door of their building. And if we could do that, we could be forgiven everything else. We can't do that, so let me go forward with what we really have to do. How does this work? I got to aim.
That button. Nope, this button.
That button. All right. We were not trained adequately on this. Kathy Kroll, where are you? Okay. So why would business and finance pick, under student success, retention? That's really first-year progression from freshman into their sophomore year or their first year into their second year. One reason: it is the most important year for our undergraduate student. If they can't make it from first year to second year, guess what? They don't get to 30 credit hours. They don't get to 60, they don't get to 90. And the new funding formula says if they don't get there, you don't get paid. See, we won't get paid for that student until they hit 30 credit hours by the state. Did anybody realize that? When they come in, starting this year, we don't get paid for that enrollment. Once they hit 30 credit hours, they hit the records for us. So that first year is so important for us. And what can we do? We can remove barriers. We can make sure that the food is excellent every day. We can really try to do that, right, John? Yeah, that's it. That's job one. We can make sure that the buses are running as they should. We can make sure that the parking is well distributed and available to our students. We can remove barriers. We can be much more customer friendly when we have to collect money from them. We can be much more sensitive. We can reach out to them. We can do a better job at getting the bills out in a timely manner and make sure that they understand that they have a bill. There's a lot of things we can do, and that will help this retention rate. And as Dr. Marrero said, if that thing says 20% up there, that means it's urgent. So that is something we're really going to drill down on. Undergraduate enrollment at all sites. What can we do there? Well, when the students come, and Dr. Lingwell will tell you, after they've made a decision to look at our campus, when they come to campus, that's the sell point. And so we're going to make sure that every day we can make this campus the best appearance for those students and their families, so that there's not a reason, a visual reason or an audio reason when they come here. Because a lot of them will go to multiple schools to look at them. We don't want them to look at us and say, well, they're not quite as good as the other. We want them to say that about us to that other school. They're not as good as we are. So we're going to work very hard on that. Here we are. Everybody knows what an ASHI star is, so I won't go over this. You don't know what that is? Well, it's a little bit hard to remember, but basically what we're talking here about is sustainability in higher education, all right? And there is a ranking out there and there is a system out there to tell us benchmark-wise how we're doing in terms of higher education sustainability. We are going to establish our baseline this year. We will either use this program or something similar. Princeton Review has a program, there's the LEADS program, there's a variety of things that we can use. This one here is more encompassing than just facilities, but we're going to focus really in here on the ASHE stars on our facilities area. Make sure that we are really doing the sustainability efforts that we need to do. Staffing versus service levels. APA, the Association of Physical Plant Administrators, puts out guidelines and standards that says, here's the staffing levels you should have for your grounds crew, your custodial crews, your maintenance crews. We're going to benchmark our staffing against the APA standard, and then we're going to do everything we can to achieve that. Financial ratios. Everybody knows what a current ratio is, right? Raise your hand. Know what a current ratio? That means it's the ratio today, right? Isn't that what a current ratio? The current ratio says, I have enough money to pay for the bills that I have coming due. We are going to make sure that that current ratio is very, very solid. We have one of the best current ratios inside the University System of Georgia today, and we're going to continue that and improve on it. The other one is, everybody knows what an unrestricted net asset is, EPARD. Oh, come on, right? That means your unrestricted net assets are that amount of money that you've got available to do other things with. You know, that, and the EPARD, exclusive of I know what that is, physical assets and related debt, okay? So we take that out because we do have physical assets that are unrestricted, but then we have related debt to them. We take that out. Those are really the net assets. What does a net asset on a positive side mean to this institution? It's healthy. Why is that a good thing? Call some of your colleagues at some of our sister institutions that aren't healthy. They will tell you what that means. There's a whole different cloud that sits over top of that institution than we have. So we're going to work very hard to do that. And again, the weighting, 25%. Staff engagement. That is so important to us. Dr. Morera has said it's very important to us. We want to make sure that within business and finance, our staff are fully engaged. 10%. Percent of business and finance staff engaged in professional development, another 10% factor. What we want to do there is make sure that every single member in the business and finance unit believes that they have an opportunity to progress. All right, goals and objectives. Ensure all divisional units complete and implement a strategic plan. That's so that I can keep my job. All right, that is an imperative. Complete all major facility projects on time and within budget. Doesn't sound like a big deal because we do it all the time, but it is hard work to do that. Complete the annual financial audit with no material or significant findings. We have done that year after year after year at this institution. Thank you, Rick Sears and your group. But that's not easy. We are one of the few institutions that does that. Ensure the maintenance of a relevant, balanced, and achievable budget. Where's Liz? There she is. Thank you, Liz. A relevant budget is one that assists us in accomplishing our overall mission. It has to be balanced because we are not allowed to contract to spend money that we don't have. And it has to be achievable, and that means we have to be able to live within it. Determine proper facility staffing, we talked about that. Follow up with all business and finance divisional units on the Engage With survey rollout with the objective of improving the level of divisional employee engagement to 75%, and we are working hard at that. Increase the staff equity funding to include those pay grades not yet funded. establish the baseline data for the ASHE STARS ranking, and then we have the action plan. Now, this is a work in process. We do have a plan, but we've got 2 other areas that we really want to work on here. What we've talked about here, though, is our real goal here is to get, again, that 75th percentile. Right now, business and finance is at a 57% engaged, universities at 53%. We're happy that we're above that line, but we are so far from the 75th, so we need to get there. Actions. Now, we are going to look at career progress and development. That's our #1 area. There are 2 other areas that aren't here yet that we are continuing to develop, and that'll be communication and leadership. But in this area, this is our first area, we want to make sure that promotions go to the best qualified people, because that was a concern on the Engaged West survey. So what are we going to do? We're going to implement and communicate a uniform process for reclassification and promotion. We are working with Juanita Hicks and her group to do that. Review and improve the process for interim positions. What we mean there is, we a lot of times here appoint somebody as an interim, and then all of a sudden they become the permanent. But we really haven't necessarily looked at others that within this group, within the university, that are also qualified. So we're going to work on that. Ensure that competencies are identified, applicable, and communicated. We want to make sure that people who are out in our community really understand what we are looking for, because there's so much talent. And a lot of times people are just not engaged enough to look at what really is required for a position. We want to make that available. I am provided with adequate opportunities for advancement. These are the things that we're going to work on. I am provided with adequate funding for professional development. We're going to establish a budget, a professional development budget in each unit. Then I'm going to put some money aside within my budget to augment those when those aren't enough. Career objectives can be achieved here. We're going to look at career path within the job interview. Where do people want to go? It's not just about employing them for the current job. We want to know more about them. What are their aspirations? We're going to try to map that. Train business and finance employees on performance management evaluations. Train middle managers to understand the workforce need and ensure their goals cover developmental needs. So, there we go. So that's what we're going to do, and now what I'm going to do is turn it over to Scott Lingerell. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if you're clapping for me or for him, so I'm going to take it for me. So many of the elements that you're seeing on this are common across the divisions, because that's what happened in the Engage West survey, and many of the items were similar. So I'm going to go very quickly through this, because you also have the ability to see this online on Monday. So the beginning part is the scorecard. Again, I'm the Division of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management, and a lot of times we say just Student Affairs, but actually the president holds me a lot more accountable for the enrollment management side of what's happening on here. So when he talks about new students and retention and recruitment and the success of those students, he's looking to Student Affairs and Enrollment Management along with the rest of the institution, but it's on my scorecard, and 30% is the weight on this. So it's very important that we accomplish this. One of the things that's different on this is that there are 2 scales. And the reason there are 2 scales is because by the time I turn this in every year, we are already past this current year, or mostly past this current year. Recruitment cycles happen in really 2 and 3 and 4 year cycles, and so by the time I turn this in, this year is done, and I have to start working on next year, and that's why there are 2 scales here. If you'll pay attention, really this is 30 and 60 hours. Yes, we're involved a lot in the 90-hour and the graduation, but mostly we focus on the 2 years, because that's the baseline that Jim was talking about. Second one is the Engage West piece, and this is, again, the satisfaction. We were at 59. We want to be at least 65 to 70 in this next year, but again, we would want it to be higher than that in the future. On that satisfied question, that was a 3.8. We want it to be a 4.0, and then these are some specific areas that I'll get into in the action plan side and the metrics around those. Total enrollment, obviously in enrollment management, total enrollment is important. These are the numbers. These flow exactly with the president's numbers in terms of the requirement and the expectation. Again, 2 scales. By the time I turn this in, we're already beyond this. We can't affect it very much. There isn't that much impact, but we can start working on the next piece. Scholarships. Now, there are 2 parts of this, actually. The top part I'm not really responsible for as much, and so there's no metric over here. That's really Bill that's most responsible in his area for that. But this piece is important, the percent unused. And right now, we're at about 15% unused. That is unrealized opportunity if we aren't using all of our scholarship dollars effectively. And that is part of what we do in enrollment management, is distribute some of those scholarship dollars. So we want to reduce that part of unused and then increase the number of total scholarships and the percent and the dollar amount for new students. We, as an institution, have not done actually a very good job of creating scholarships for new students to attract those top-notch, bright students that we want at our institution. We need more leverage in that way so we can attract those students, and those are the baselines for that. Student employment, one of the areas of the strategic plan talks specifically about student employment in the student success area, and these are some metrics around that. Total dollars in student employment, what our baseline is, where we would like to be, total federal work-study dollars. That's one of the only acronyms I have in here, but it means federal work-study, just so you know. And then number of student assistants. So those would all be metrics. The base of this is that student assistants are more engaged at the institution. They are retained at higher rates. So if you pop those levels, those different populations of students that are retained at higher levels than other populations of students, and you increase those, you'll get a higher retention rate. Student involvement in co-curriculum, we don't have great numbers around this. This is our baseline year for that. But again, number of students involved. We actually have a program on campus now. It just went live called OrgSync, and it is specifically to track students at events. They come in, swipe their card, it goes into a system, and all the magic happens, and we know a lot about them. Employee volunteer hours, again, this connection, this partnership success has to do with not only student and employee volunteer, and we have some baseline information about that because we added a volunteer coordinator last year, but again, baseline year for our staff. Okay, going on to, we have a few institutional goals and objectives. I'm not going to go over these. You can read these at your leisure as you peruse the website. But essentially, there are just a few common pieces about this that are wrapped around both. Again, these are tactical goals. You can't wrap a whole lot of numbers around them in terms of metrics. But hiring protocol, making sure that process is effective, departmental budgets and assessing that and make sure those are going towards our strategic initiatives. Academic affairs, student success collaborative, really, really important things happening this next year. Will be rolled out. Beginning of that will be in September. It's a strong collaboration with academic affairs on that piece. Enhancing dual enrollment, these become a little more specific, but enhancing dual enrollment, a population where there is a lot of opportunity. Professional development and training program across our division, and then complete our current construction and renovation projects, because we put those in place to support our units so that they can support students, and we need to get those finished. So there's 3 things on the Engage West action plan. That's how we did it. Come on. 3 items. The number 1 item was transparency and communication. You know this. It's common across all the divisions in the university. And so you can see some of the things we're doing to address that. And it's been very helpful as managers. Some of these things are coming out in the area, and it's giving us an opportunity to cascade communication down, a lot of the transparency piece didn't really have to do with the lack of transparency. It had to do with the lack of communication, because things were happening and it wasn't being communicated and cascaded down. I'll get over here closer. The second one is culture, civility, and treatment of employees within the division. We're doing some neat things. Probably the one that's had the most impact recently is just this very simple thing of every day in the morning I pop out about 6 or 7 emails of somebody's birthday or their work anniversary. Really kind of cool. Hey, it's good to have you on campus. You've been here 14 years, and we're lucky to have you in our division. Or today's your birthday. Things like, I hope you take the whole week to celebrate it, and Joetta actually has a birthday month. I say that in the email because she celebrates the entire birthday month. There she is right back there. We're doing a coffee with the VP. Again, the point was they're not getting enough time to know me specifically individually, and so we're doing those kind of things to kind of increase that communication and relationship. And then the last piece, there are actually 2 slides here, but consistency in hiring and promotion. There was this perception that we're hiring our friends from within and they weren't qualified for their jobs. And that is untrue. They're qualified for their jobs. We're hiring from within because we've done a good job of developing people so that they can take those new jobs. But there's this negative perception around that sometimes. Or we're hiring from outside because we haven't done a good job developing the people from inside. So it's kind of a, damned if you do, damned if you don't type of a thing. And so we're tackling that with a hiring protocol and a communication protocol around all of the hiring so that people understand we're hiring great people that are qualified, and not only qualified, but overqualified for the minimum aspects of their position, and we're hiring great people to do the work. So there are 2 pieces on that, and I will turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Bill Estes. Well, come on, clap for Bill.
Thank you. I'm getting more and more nervous all the time because I'm looking over at my colleague down here. She's getting her hook ready. She's got the sign that says 1 minute. All right, so I can do this very quickly. What I'm going to do is tell you it's very simple, and then you can read it online. I'll show a couple of things. But basically, the job of our division is to raise a boatload of money, win all sorts of games and athletic events, and then tell everybody every good thing that's happening in the university. That's pretty simple. So I'm going to try to be as brief as I can with this. You always have to help me with that one. Aims at the computer. All right. First one, enhanced marketing, community perception. What we want to do is spend a great deal of time not only pushing out information, but we want to do some research so that we can find ways to increase both the quality and the quantity of the information that we get out about the things that you all do well. And thank you, computer. I always do that wrong. There we go. Did I go past one? I think I did. All right, good. Thank you. All right, increase endowment. Now, this is only 10%. Somebody's going to say, what in the heck are you talking about? If I can get Faye's brilliant group in the Richards College of Business to show us how we can anticipate exactly what Wall Street's going to do, we can be much more successful with this. But we do want to grow. Hey, thank you. I'd like to do that, and I'll send it out to everybody. That'd be great. Yeah, hopefully we'd like to grow the size of our endowment over this year by about 8%, which would put us from almost $26 million up to around $28.5 million. Increase total contributions to the foundation. This is our big job. Annual gift fundraising, endowment fundraising, all those kinds of good things. We've got all sorts of metrics. Our staff goal is 6.0 million. I don't have a goal up there. Don't read that. I will tell you one piece of good news. Since July 1, we're right on target for that 6.0 goal. We recently, just yesterday, documented a planned gift that is in excess of 1 million. So shout out to Diane's group. We're excited about that. And we'll talk a little more about the bottom about campaign council. Can I get it? There we go. Increase alumni annual giving. What we would like to do is to increase the amount of participation. We're working on strategies. This past year's annual giving rate for alumni giving was 4%. That's low. Now the average nationally is about 8%, so we'd like to move up that way. This target right here is to increase alumni giving to 4.5%, and as you can see later, I'm cheating, but you'll see. Expand and support the vibrancy of student life through an improved athletic program. We have all sorts of goals here. The sum total is that we'd like to increase our won-loss record overall by about 20% this year. You've met our new young football coach. He recently spoke to Rotary. Somebody asked him what he expected of the first year, and he said, well, to win a conference championship. So we're going to hold him to that and do the best we can. No pressure at all. Increase overall GPA by 4% and have at least 7 of our 13 sports teams have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 by the end of the year. Thanks to David Haas's group, we actually had 6 teams that did this past year. So we want to grow our graduation rate and our athletic performance. We would like to see our student athletes consistently outperform the overall student body, and for the last couple of years they have done so. So we're grateful. Then engage advancement staff. We'll talk a little more as we go along. All right, here are the division goals and objectives. Many of them, you can read them all, but many of them focus around the capital campaign, and I just want to give you 2 or 3 pieces of information. If you'd like, you can do what I ask our foundation trustees to do at a retreat that we had 2 weeks ago. I reminded them that August 2nd at 8:15 a.m., we begin to go somewhere this university has never gone before. We've done analysis, we've done all sorts of things internally, and they've always said we're not ready for a campaign. We're officially in campaign mode, folks. Our analysis said, hey, if you work hard, you can get there, and so we intend to do it. So we are going to spend a great deal of time working on that. We're actually selecting campaign council for the next stage of our campaign event. We're hiring additional staff. We're moving forward. There's that website review issue again. Grow the endowment, implement a comprehensive annual giving report. Now, you see, I told you I cheated because I came back over here and said I'd really like by June for us to have annual giving percentage up to 5%. All right, and what we did with our action plan for the Engage West process was just slightly different from other folks. You will notice our baseline result for university advancement was 63%. We're going to brag about that, 63%. University average of 53. Our primary goal is to become more transparent for this quarter. What we've said we're going to do is to attack things on a quarterly basis, and we have 3 strategies to do that. 10 senior staff. I do go to our senior staff meetings, but I want to go to each department senior staff meeting on a regular basis and scare the heck out of everybody. Produce a division newsletter that should be going out by the end of August. Hold quarterly social events. See if we can move it forward one more time. And we've begun doing this, but to share information. Again, it's a communication issue. We want to be more transparent and communicate better. I'm done.
I knew we would be pressed to get all that through, but we wanted you to see it. It'll be online, transparent. Please continue to ask questions. It's important that you hold us accountable. So as messy as that may have felt, it was a lot of work behind it and made sure that you can count on us, and together we'll be accountable. So thank you all very much.